regular meeting of the Fairfield Planning Commission for March 27, 2024. Mr. Feinstein, may we have the roll call?
Yes, Commissioner Kennedy.
Present.
Commissioner Paul.
Here.
Commissioner Greavy.
Present.
Commissioner Werblin.
Here.
Commissioner Cruzen.
Here.
Vice Chairperson Evans.
Present.
And Chairperson Matthews.
Present. Vice Chair Evans, may we ask you to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. Let me read a brief note about information regarding public comments. Persons wishing to address the Planning Commission on subjects not on the agenda but within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission may do so provided no action may be taken on off-agendized item except as authorized by law. Off-agendized items from the public will be taken under consideration without discussion by the Commission and may be referred to staff. Comments will be accepted in person or via Zoom. To speak on an agenda item in person, please complete a speaker's card and give it to the Secretary before the meeting or at the latest prior to the time for public comments on that item. When joining via Zoom, please use the raise your hand feature or press *9 on your phone to request to speak. You will be called on by name and will have 3 minutes to speak. Next is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll motion to approve the agenda.
And a second?
I do second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as submitted. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Next is the approval of the minutes for December 13, 2023 Planning Commission meetings. Are there any changes to the minutes from staff?
None from staff.
From commissioners? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I motion to approve the minutes on December 13, 2023.
And a second?
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the minutes as submitted. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. This is the time for public to speak on items not on the agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. I now open the public comment period. I see no individuals in the audience wishing to speak in person. Are there any on Zoom?
There are none.
Seeing none, I will now close the public comment period. The next item on the agenda is scheduled matters. For each agendized item, there will be a presentation by city staff. For items that involve application requests, I will ask the applicant to address the commission if they so desire. Then I will open the comment period via Zoom and in-house. I will close the comment period after all comments have been provided and after all of our questions regarding the testimony during the comment period have been answered. After the comment period is closed, the commission will deliberate on the items and may have additional questions for staff. We cannot take additional testimony or questions from the public after the comment period is closed. Our first item is item A, a public hearing on the request of Republic Urban Properties for a development review application, revised on-site improvements for the aviatrix project, originally approved on January 25, 2023. Our planner is Jesse Hernandez. Oh, it's Meili Xian.
Sorry, Jesse's got the night off. Yes, thank you.
Please proceed, Meili.
Appreciate it. So good evening, Commissioners, everybody joining us today. I am Meili Sheehan, and I will be presenting item A. So the project is located on a partially developed 25.8 acre site off of Peabody Road. There are a few existing residential structures on the site, but it is mostly vacant. For a contextual view, I've zoomed out a little bit here to give you a better sense of where we are in the city. Off to the west, you have Claybank Road. On to the south, you have Airbase Parkway. We also have Cement Hill Road, which changes to Vanden Road as it crosses the intersection of Peabody. And of course, the star in the center is our project site. For a few key markers, we have Franklin Distillery off of Peabody. There is Vanden High School, Golden West Middle School. Travis Air Force Base is at the corner here. You have the Fairfield Vacaville Hannigan train station, right where my pointer is. There is the One Lake Community and the New Lake Park. And lastly, we have Gary Fallotti Park and some existing subdivisions in the area. I'll be using quite a lot of acronyms tonight, so I do like to provide a little cheat sheet for you all if you want to jot a few notes. These are the main ones that I'll be using throughout the evening. TSSP for the train station specific plan, PA for planning area, MPUD as master plan unit development permit, EIR, environmental impact report, and EVA, emergency vehicle access. So before going into the project details, as you may know if you listen to a lot of my presentations, I like to just give a brief summary of some high context. Here I want to talk a little bit about the train station specific plan itself. The specific plan is a master plan for approximately 3,000 acres in the northeast area of the city. It was adopted by the City Council in July of 2011. Concurrent with the adoption, the Council also certified an environmental impact report, or an EIR, that evaluated the entire plan area, looking at things such as traffic, wetlands, biological habitat, and other environmental resources. The specific plan provides a broad framework for the overall development of the area, but it defers exact land planning to a later date with a master plan unit development permit, or an MPUD. There are 10 planning areas within the specific plan. 4 of those areas are 100% residential. 1 is a commercial area with mixed-use residential opportunities. Another is an industrial area. Another is dedicated for a public park. And then there is a open space conservation area. And lastly, there are 2 areas that cover existing development. Each planning area is required to have that MPUD to provide more detailed development entitlements. Essentially, the MPUD acts as a bridge connecting the specific plan's goals and policies to very specific development requirements. Right now, we currently have multiple MPUDs approved. We have them approved for planning areas 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Planning Area 7 is dedicated for a future 50-acre public park known as the Matt Garcia Community Park. City staff is currently in early design stages of that park. And that leaves the remaining planning areas of 8 and 9, which are existing development. 10, which is, 8 is our open space conservation area. 9 and 10 are existing development, and lastly, planning area 2, and that is the commercial planning area with mixed-use residential opportunities. And then not to be too repetitive, but to give you that visual, here are those planning areas. Again, 1, 3, 4, and 5, those are residential. 6 is industrial. 7 is the Matt Garcia Community Park. 8 is open space conservation. 9 is an existing development that was once part of the Travis Air Force Base, which has since then been carved away from the base and is currently vacant. 10 is the North Bay water treatment facility. And then, of course, number 2 are unentitled MPUD for the commercial and mixed-use residential. And then, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that little red triangle is the train station itself. Looking into the project-specific planning area, Planning Area 1 received an MPUD approval last January. The MPUD envisions 684 to 1,050 residential units. It also includes extension segments of the linear park, marked out here in green. Additionally, it includes 3 public parks, a private community recreation facility, and a multi-use trail that is integrated into the street network that'll connect into the adjacent planning areas and ultimately lead folks to the Lake Park and the Matt Garcia Community Park. And then, of course, all the road and utility infrastructure that comes with it. Shortly after the PA1 MPUD was approved, the Aviatrix project was approved by the Planning Commission, and that entitlement and package included a tentative subdivision map, a development review, which includes site improvements, architecture, landscaping, amenities, and construction phasing specific to Aviatrix, an environmental review that implements the train station specific plans EIR, and all of these existing entitlements are valid until January of 2025. Tonight, what is before you is the applicant seeking another development review to revise a handful of components to the project. And those components are related to the site improvements, landscaping, and construction phasing. The applicant is not proposing revisions to the architecture or amenities with this current development review application, and the tentative subdivision map still meets their needs, so they have not submitted for a new application for a tentative map. These 4 items listed here are the project components the applicant is seeking tonight. Number 1, a new construction phasing proposal. Number 2, revisions to on-site circulation. 3, revisions to the utility plan. And 4, revisions to the building siding and the number of building types. Of course, I'll break down each of these as we continue throughout the presentation. And as I just noted, the applicant has not applied for a new tentative subdivision map. That map parcels out off-site improvements, such as the Planning Area 1 roads and utilities, and some regional infrastructure, such as improvements to Peabody Road and a regional stormwater detention basin. Without a new tentative subdivision map application, the 2023 entitlements and conditions of approval are valid and will remain in place. And of course, additionally, the applicant is not requesting revisions to the project's architecture or the amenity components. Although this new development review application does reopen these items for review, tonight's resolution proposes that the 2023 conditions tied to those components are just carried over again and essentially reapproved or reentitled. So before diving into the revision requests, this slide just gives a quick summary of the project's composition. So the project is made up of 346 units. There are 80 residential buildings. They are in a variety of makeups. There's 4plexes, 5plexes, and 6plexes, so all attached residential units. There is a community building as well as an associated pool building. There are multiple private amenities on site, and then the site includes landscaping and infrastructure improvements. Here we have the previous 2023 approved site plan. So I wanted to start with the originally approved to make a little more sense of what is now in front of you today and what those kind of minor revisions are. So the project was always envisioned to be constructed in 2 phases. Originally, that phasing was tied to building type. So if you can follow the dotted red line here, this is phase 1. And you can see within phase 1, it's covering all the A, B, C, D, and E building types for a total of 201 units. Phase 2, outlined in the green dotted areas, is including the building types F, G, and H for a total of 145 units. The project is located on 2 parcels, and in this phasing proposal, phase 1 is constructing across both of the parcels. And if I click here, that's the separating parcel line. So parcel 1 is roughly this L shape, and then parcel 2 is roughly this square shape here. To align with financing requirements and land acquisition timing, the applicant has brought this revised project packet before you tonight. The initial revision is to update that project phasing, again, so that it's no longer tied to the building types, but rather that it's tied to the parcel boundaries. So in other words, they would be seeking to have phase 1 construct this western parcel, and then phase 2 to construct the northeastern parcel. If the project were to be built in accordance to this plan in front of you, phase 1 would be very challenging in that this property line runs right here along all of these buildings, the C and D, and there would not be proper access to those buildings. Therefore, this lane right here, lane B, will need to be shifted over to the west. So if I highlight that, if you can see that lane needs to scooch over to the west or to the left side of your screen. Of course, shifting that lane over then impacts the location of these buildings. And although these on-site revisions are quite minor, they did still require staff review and the commission's action. So if you can keep your eye on where that yellow highlighted lane B is, as I click forward to the next slide, it'll be the proposed plan in front of you tonight, and you'll see those revisions. And so I'll click back and forth just one more time. So keep your eye on lane B. This is the new project proposal. So that lane B has shifted to the west, which now provides the proper access all around these D buildings. But of course, as you saw in the first proposal, those buildings were moved. So circled here in blue are where all those buildings have been relocated, and a few of the buildings have changed building type so that the project is still meeting the same total unit count of 346 units. In addition to those on-site changes, the project, as previously approved and currently proposed tonight, requires off-site improvements to access the site. The developer will need to construct Street A and Street D here in order to access the property. With phase 1, only half of Street D will be constructed to provide emergency vehicle access, or EVA. Additionally, this little orange stretch right here is the temporary road that will provide connection to these units here until all of Street D is built and another point of access is available. The Public Works Department and Fire Department have both included a variety of conditions of approval that ensure that these emergency vehicle access points are always present during the construction of the project, so there will always be points of access in the event of an emergency. Additionally, the Public Works Department has conditions regarding Noonan Lane. At the completion of Street A, the blue side of Noonan Lane, or the north side of Noonan Lane, will be closed to vehicle traffic because we will now have a new connection point right here for Street A. So any members that are going to either the Aviatrix project or the Western residential development up here will have that access point through Street A, and they will no longer need the Noonan Lane connection. Keeping both of them open would be dangerous from a traffic perspective, having these two intersection points. And ultimately, this blue section of Noonan Lane is going to be converted into a linear park segment. So with those on-site circulation revisions, and I apologize, I know this is a hard map to look at, but all of the private utilities run under the roads. So when you shifted that lane B and subsequently all the little other lanes, you were shifting all the utilities as well. So there is a new revised utility plan for review tonight. And those utilities ultimately connect into public lines running through Street A, Street D, and then eventually connecting into Peabody Road. Here is the preliminary fire access plan. As I noted, EVA is very important to the city, and in order to ensure that the emergency vehicles can actually maneuver the project site, this plan was prepared that shows turning movements. And again, it's a little tight, but you can actually see there are little fire trucks, if you will, mapped out on the site with those turning movements, showing that all areas of the plan can be accessed. This slide is just an illustrative plan to show the project at full build-out with the landscape and amenity areas shown. A little color is always easier to look at than, let's say, that utility plan I just had up. So again, this is just showing you that full build-out of the project. I've also included a few renderings to give you a feel of what the community may look like. So in summary, these are the 4 components to the project proposal. The phasing plan, as discussed, is going to change the construction phasing to no longer be tied to building types, but rather to the parcel boundaries. And when you change that phasing, you inevitably have to change the on-site circulation, specifically that lane B shifting to the west. Additionally, they had to add the temporary road to connect to that lower portion of phase 1 where only half of Street D is built, so that temporary road gives you the access to those other units. And then, of course, changing that on-site road work means that you've moved some of the buildings around, so the building siting has been impacted. 6 buildings in total are either relocated or removed. With those buildings being shifted around, some of the building types change. So specifically, you're looking at building types A, C, D, and E, but you still have that same grand total of 346 units. And then lastly, access to the project will still be taken off of Street A and Street D, with emergency vehicle access being in place during phase 1. And all of the utilities run under the road networks and connect to the proper connection points ultimately in Peabody. So subject to state law, the project must be evaluated from an environmental perspective. And as I noted at the beginning of the presentation, there was an EIR adopted alongside the train station specific plan. Through the Planning Area 1 MPUD, we specifically identify which of those mitigation measures are applicable to the planning area and therefore applicable to the aviatrix project. Some key ones to highlight is coordination with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the San Francisco Regional Water Quality Control Board, and the California Department of Fish and Wildlife is required. So there is a variety of environmental permits that will need to be obtained before any construction can take place. So before even any dirt is moved around, the applicant would need to coordinate with these regulatory agencies and obtain those permits. And I do also want to identify that no additional impacts were reviewed or identified during this process. And so in summary, sorry, I know it's a little repetitive, but highlight, just really hammer it in, the key conditions that we're looking at and are part of your packet tonight. Of course, that phasing is changing, so some key conditions tied to phase 1 is that the developer must construct the minimum infrastructure improvements, so that is Street A and the half of Street D providing EVA. The temporary pedestrian path is also required, so that's going to take all of the residents within phase 1 and make sure that they have a safe path of travel to the intersection of Vanden and Peabody and of course the train station. There is also a condition tied to the timing of the wetland park. The wetland park is located within phase 1. The conditions narrow down exactly when the design of that needs to happen and when the construction must start and when the park also must be completed. For phase 2, the conditions are outlined here. We are requiring that there is either a lot merger or some type of documentation that shows common ownership and maintenance for the 2 parcels. So this will ensure that the project will function as one project, that there'll be cross-access amongst the 2 parcels, that there'll be common maintenance across the 2 parcels, and if you're living there, you wouldn't even know that you're on 2 properties. Additionally, they must complete the infrastructure, that's the completion of Street D. And then with phase 2 also comes the timing of the linear park segment where the northern half of Noonan Lane is converted to linear park. Of course, as I'm really hammering in, EVA must be maintained during all times of construction. And then lastly, we are carrying over some of the 2023 conditions for re-entitlement. So those conditions cover compliance with the PA1 MPUD permit. That permit identifies a common benefit and cost sharing, so it outlines how all of Street A and Street D should be financially covered across all of the Planning Area 1 property owners. It also includes minimum off-site improvements, again, Street A and Street D, as well as some regional improvements, Peabody Road and the stormwater detention basin. Again, the environmental mitigations must be carried over. And lastly, from the train station specific plan, there's a variety of community design policies that would regulate the architecture and the amenities that are proposed. And so before I give you my recommendation, I do want to note that when you sat down at the dais today, you had one sheet of paper ready for you. Condition 2.1 in your conditions packet was a typographical error, so it was just carried over incorrectly. So 2.1 has been revised. It focuses on the time frame in which the approval is valid. This project, should you approve it tonight, will be valid for 2 years. That is a standard time frame that the city applies to all development projects unless it's tied to a greater development agreement, which would identify a different timeline. But this is a very standard condition. There is just a typographical error, so wanted to highlight that for you, that we did revise it. It would be part of the resolution should you take action on that tonight. And so staff is recommending that you adopt Resolution 2024-01, granting approval of the development review. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions you might have, and I have colleagues from the Public Works and Fire Department in the room as well. Thank you.
Ms. Sheehan, as always, excellent presentation. We thank you for your professionalism. At our last meeting, Commissioner Werblin made a very good suggestion that rather than have haphazard questions, we might have a little more order to that. And my recommendation is that we start with Commissioner Kennedy, then Commissioner Paul, and so on. If during the question period you've passed and you still have additional questions, once we've completed the round, we'll go back and pick up any other questions. Is that acceptable to everyone? Okay. One final point that I'd like to emphasize. This is a time for question only. During the deliberation, we'll have an opportunity to have commissioners state their opinion and consider whether or not they're supportive of that. So this period is, again, staff present questions. After we conclude this, we'll then hear from the applicant. Commissioner Kennedy.
I just have a couple questions. Maylee, can you go back to the map with the 2 streets with Street D and Street F, I guess?
Is this map good for you?
That's fine. Street A. So with this, on Street D, it looks like it's going to go like 2/3 of the way down to where it looks like we're like right where your thing is. Is there a specific reason why it didn't just continue on to lane F, and so they wouldn't have to have the temporary road going across and such? Is that just because the south portion of the other property owners will be responsible for that, or?
Sure, and for that construction timing, I may defer to the applicant to provide their reasoning for what they were looking for there. And I can also bring up my colleague from the Public Works Department to speak on, from a city's perspective, why we created that timing. You're on.
Good evening, Planning Commissioner and Chairperson Matthews. My name is Alvin Lay with the City of Fairfield Public Works Department. So in discussing the construction phasing for Street D with the applicant, you may notice on your screen here that it's a little bit faded, but there is a maintenance road shown on the south side of Street D here. This maintenance road leads to a detention basin which the applicant is also required to construct to serve not only the proposed development, but also when it's built per the ultimate train station specific plan, it will provide regional drainage for that area. And so in discussing the construction phasing with the applicant and also identifying the fire department's needs for an emergency vehicle access road, that's why Public Works required that the Street D phasing terminate at the entrance to that maintenance road for the first phase.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Nope, that's it.
Commissioner Paul?
Yes, as I do gather well in this review, we are just voting on just one aspect of entitlement, right? And my second question is, since we are moving, I think 13 units from phase 2 to phase, from phase 1 to phase 2. So earlier it was 201 units, now it's 86 units. Can I, how many parking spaces are we losing? And I don't know when phase 2 will be completed. I don't want that the people who own the houses in phase 1, they may feel handicapped way to park their vehicles.
Yes, and so I'll have to ask you for your first question, but to answer your second question for the phasing, there's still the same number of parking stalls. So per our zoning requirements, the project's required 741 spaces, and the project is proposing 926. The units, as you can maybe see here, the units have garage spaces, but they also have this on-site parking. So the parking is actually balanced with the building types that they're tied to. So in terms of required parking and proposed parking, it's meeting our zoning standards during both of the phasing. And then I'm sorry, what was your first question? Oh, just one question. Sorry, I thought there was two. Thank you.
Commissioner Paul, are you done then?
Yes, Sam.
Commissioner Greavy?
I have nothing.
Commissioner Werblin?
Thank you, Commissioner Kennedy. I have the same question, but I was wondering if you could just show, there was a different slide that Street A and Street D, it was highlighted in yellow. Can you highlight that
Sorry.
slide?
If you don't mind, it's going to take a second just to get back there.
Okay, because I just wanted to confirm how far out, and then can you use your cursor of the length of where Street D is going to be completed in the
Yes.
first phase?
So where it's orange will be where Street D is completed to, and as Alvin had noted, it stops right at that maintenance road for the basin to the south.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it for your questions? Commissioner Cruzen?
I don't have any.
Commissioner Evans?
I have no questions, thank you.
And I do not have any questions either. Are there any additional ones that have come up? Seeing none, we will now open the public comment period. I have speaker card from the applicant, represented by Melissa Durkin. You may come forward, please.
She has a PowerPoint if you would like to see it.
Sure.
First of all, I would like to thank you, Ms. Sheehan. That was a really excellent presentation, very thorough. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Melissa Durkin. I am Senior Vice President of Development with Republic Urban Properties, and I'm pleased to be here tonight presenting the proposed minor modifications to our Aviatrix project, which was previously approved in January of 2023. Republic Urban Properties is a San Jose-based real estate development company with projects throughout the Bay Area. We specialize in mixed-use, multifamily projects along transit, as well as some commercial office and hotels. We are excited to add the build-for-rent product to our portfolio and think that Fairfield is a really great location for our first development of this type. As Ms. Sheehan mentioned, the purpose of the amendment is really just to allow for a modified two-phase development, which in turn did require some minor modifications to the building and internal street network. But once it's complete, it would function as one cohesive project with shared amenities. So what is build for rent? It is basically renting a single-family home. But unlike home ownership, you don't have a down payment, you don't have to worry about property taxes or insurance. It's really appealing to all demographics, including young families, retired couples, families with pets and children. Maybe they can't afford to buy a home or simply prefer to rent and don't want to have to worry about maintenance, but really still prefer a single-family lifestyle over living in an apartment. Aviatrix will offer a mix of 2, 3, and 4 bedrooms to meet different family sizes and even accommodate space for a home office, which we know is very popular now. Each unit comes with a 2-car garage, and many have an enclosed private backyard. And the amenities are great. There is pedestrian access to the train station, a rec room and fitness center, a pool with clubhouse, pickleball and bocce ball court, dog park, playground for kids, and plenty of open space with natural landscaping and trails. And thank you for your consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll follow the same routine. Do commissioners have questions for the applicant? Commissioner Kennedy?
I have no additional questions. My only wish is that street D would go down to lane F, but other than that, I will be in support of this project.
Commissioner Paul?
Yeah, no questions.
Commissioner Greavy?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Wordler? Commissioner Cruiser?
No questions.
Commissioner Evans?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. We'll continue with the public hearing. Are there any individuals that wish to speak from the audience? Seeing none, I will now look at Zoom. I see no hands raised. So we will now, would staff like to respond to any questions that were raised?
No, I believe we answered your questions as you asked them, unless there's anything we might have missed.
Okay, we now will close the public hearing portion and return this matter to the Commission for deliberation. This is the time to state your opinion and consider whether or not you're supportive of the resolution. Commissioner Kennedy?
I'll go with my previous comment. That's it.
Commissioner Paul?
Yeah, I think we did approve this project way back last year in January, and I think I have no additional questions on this one. It's a good presentation, and I would say that I'm satisfied with the presentation.
Commissioner Greavy?
I'm satisfied.
Commissioner Wordba?
I just agree with Commissioner Kennedy. I wish that in the first phase, just complete that street D, but that's not going to be enough to deter me. And I wish there was a section where it could be rent to own for some of the people just starting out and have that combination. So that's just for the record, but nothing else. Thank you.
Commissioner Cruzen?
I don't have any issues.
Vice Chair Evans?
I will agree with Commissioner Warblin about having an ownership option. I think that that would be great, but then other than that, I'm really excited for this project because I believe it brings some diversity to the type of rental projects that we have out here, and it's going to be great for those looking for housing for Travis that have families. So, thank you.
Okay, and I do not have any additional comments. I'm supportive of the motion. May I have a motion to approve Resolution PC 2024-01?
I move to approve Resolution 2024-01, granting the approval of development review.
And do I have a second?
I do the second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing that project move forward. Mr. Feinstein, do you have a director's report for tonight?
Yes, I do. I have at least three things here to report on. First of all, upcoming meetings. We've had actually a little extended quiet period with the Planning Commission. Much of your agenda is driven by applications that we get in, and for whatever reason, we just had a little lull. But glad to see you all back and a full commission here. We do expect that you will have a meeting for your next meeting. We will be taking up the item, will be a follow-up on the discussion of mixed-use development and the standards, how much commercial do you need to have if you're going to have residential, an issue that came up with the Aurora project over on Business Center Drive, and the commission had noted you had concerns that our code doesn't really have any thresholds. So we'll come back to you, throw out some options for you to consider, get your input, and then come back at a later date if you decide among various possibilities with some amendments to our code for you to consider. So we'll be taking that up at your next meeting. And then we have a couple other items coming your way. And the first of the other upcoming items, something we've been working on, and I know you know we've been working on the general plan update. We've been really diving in sort of behind the scenes over the last few months. And in April, we are going to really start finalizing a draft of the policy language for the general plan for eventual release as a part of the draft general plan update. And we're going to want to share that with the commission to get your input before we finalize the draft general plan. And so we are looking to have a study session with the Planning Commission to get your input on the policy language for the general plan. Normally, we would schedule this at one of your regular meetings. We are on sort of a tight, narrow schedule where we know, working with our consultant, how quickly we'll get some of that to be able to share with you. It won't be ready in time for your second meeting in April. And at the same time, to keep us on schedule for where the City Council wants to be hearing these items, the City Council will be looking to have their own study session on the 7th of May, which means we're looking for a special meeting of the Planning Commission that would likely take the place of your second April meeting. And we're looking to do it on either Wednesday, May 1st, or Thursday, May 2nd. And I'm not necessarily looking tonight for you to tell us, do either of those work for you? Our admin staff is going to be reaching out to you tomorrow. Look for an email querying you, are you available for either? Are there any you're not able to? And we'll look to make sure we're to have a meeting where the majority of you can be at, and hopefully all 7 of you can make one of those dates. So do look for that, and we'll really look forward to daylighting a lot of the policy language that we've been working on. That'll be the first opportunity for the public to see some of that, and for the Planning Commission to weigh in. So we are excited to get to that major milestone with you. And then I think that's, at the moment, the upcoming things that we know about. So I'm glad we're going to have a series of some additional meetings where we're not having another extended absence with you guys. The last thing I want to talk about, something I'm really proud of, and I want to highlight this for the commission. During that absence, staff has been working with the state, the Department of Housing and Community Development. They are the state's sort of oversight body for housing policy within the state, and they also control a range of dollars that are available to communities to help with housing matters. And the state has created a program called the Pro-Housing Designation Program. And essentially, cities can apply to the state to be designated by the state as a pro-housing city. And you have to document a whole range of policies that you have in place, programs, things like that, that demonstrate that you're a city that supports housing development. There are over 500 communities in the state of California. Less than 50 have that designation. Last month, Fairfield was granted a pro-housing designation by the state. So we are in the top 10% of all communities in the state in terms of being recognized for the work that we do to help with the state's housing crisis. And the Planning Commission, you make decisions on housing, and you help make sure that the high-quality housing. And today I heard nice to have another option, another kind of housing presented. So I think it's really notable that we as a community got that designation, and the Planning Commission, you all as well, are a part of the reason why we get that. And I want to highlight both our housing department staff who worked on that and planning staff in community development. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Do commissioners have any reports they'd like to share? Commissioner Kennedy?
No, just that I attended several grand openings and expansions of retail in the city in the last month and a half or so. So then it's great to see the new businesses and the expansion of the businesses. It was just really great to see. So I'd like to see a lot more of that.
Thanks for attending. Commissioner Paul?
I think it was a long vacation for us. We met after almost 4 months. The last time we met was in December 13th, and today is March 27th. And we really enjoyed that vacation. Didn't have no meetings, and I would say Happy New Year. And we wish we would have more work than going on vacation for that long.
Thank you. Commissioner Greavy?
Yes. I just want to say this so that the folks at the city that write the checks for us to go on these seminars get a full appreciation. This is the first time that I went 2 in a row, and I can't encourage you enough to go to these. The first one, it was good, and I'm sure it was actually great, but I was not as in tune as I was with the second one, and it was very valuable. I hope that the rest of us can get to go next year. And honestly, I'd probably pay for my own way to go. I know it's going to be up in Santa Rosa, I believe. And I made some additional connections and learned some very valuable information to bring back. So I can't say enough about the support that the city gave us to go to that conference in Long Beach.
And I think you're referring to the Cal Cities Planning Commissioners Conference, their annual conference, yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Werblin?
Hello, good evening. I just have a couple of questions. You mentioned the study session. We received an email to select some dates the last week of April. Is this the same thing, or is this something
It's related. We'll meet with you individually to prepare you so that you have so that there's a lot of material to cover, and we don't want you to miss out on some things, so we'll have a separate meeting with you individually to prepare you, to give you the overview, so that when you hear the presentation at the study session, your brain will already be prepped and ready for that. So that's a separate sort of an introduction for you. So there'll be two sessions, but one we're looking specifically here at the dais, and that's on May 1st or May 2nd.
May 1st or May 2nd. And if for the individual sessions that week, if we don't have a planning commission meeting on April 24th, is that a day that would be selected, or is it still going to be either days before or days after?
For the individual session or for the special study session?
The individual sessions.
Those will be as we're able to work with you, your schedule and staff schedule.
Okay.
We'll craft that
Okay, so
special
it's based
for
on-
you.
Okay, and the far out in advance, they can be scheduled is helpful, because calendars, at least mine, fills up very quickly,
Yeah,
so I appreciate that.
we're looking right now
I appreciate that.
to get that
And
with
we
you.
will hold for May 1 or May 2nd.
Yes.
We'll hold that. And that's going to be in the evening, the same time as our planning commission
Yes, it
meeting?
would be 6 o'clock
6 o'clock.
in this chamber. We'll get that out to you tomorrow. Hopefully, all of you are able to respond pretty quickly, so look for that email coming to you. The faster you respond, the faster we can let you know for your own calendars what works.
Thank you, and thank you to, I think Cindy, who does all that
It's Cindy,
coordination.
yeah,
So
it'd be
Cindy, if
Cindy.
you're listening, we appreciate you.
Commissioner Cruiser.
I don't have anything. It just feels good to be back, and I look forward to the upcoming projects and proposals.
Vice Chair Evans.
I'm just going to say ditto.
And finally, I just wanted to echo a couple comments. Commissioner Kennedy talked about the ribbon cuttings. I think that's an excellent opportunity to meet people in the community. And as we're representing the city, it gives opportunity for community members to give us feedback that we might not normally meet. And usually they have a raffle. You might win, because I won one item. And also echoing Commissioner Greavy's comment, the training in Long Beach was very beneficial, and encourage all to come next year if possible. And one final comment that I love to make every spring: planning makes a difference, and the white flowering pear trees that the Planning Commission and others have made as a condition of approval for various projects are spectacular. And I'd just like to recognize Planning Commission, or Planning Department, for making that effort, and many others. Do we have any comments from the city attorney?
No comment, other than it's nice to see you all.
With that, we are adjourned to our next meeting on April 10th, 2024.